They say to live in the present, forget the past, and plan for the future. But what if the future has so many awesome gaming monitors coming out that you only want to think about it? And when those monitors finally come out, does that mean the future is now? Hey, I'm Nicholas from Ratings.com. Today we're going to have a look at the LG 27GX790A-B. It's a 1440p OLED with a 480Hz refresh rate. It's part of the group of monitors coming out with the same specs, like the Sony InZone M10S and the Asus PG27AQ-DP. It generated a ton of hype even before coming out, so much so that we even had to pre-order it. But that begs the question, after all that, is it worth getting? Let's start with the design. It's an LG monitor, so it looks like an LG monitor. It has a simple yet gaming focused look with RGB lighting on the back. It looks premium, but there's a shiny strip below the bottom bezel that's quite reflective, which could be distracting in bright rooms. Besides that, it comes with a straightforward stand that offers any common adjustment. It also includes a solid metal base that holds the screen well. And there's a cutout for basic cable management to help keep your setup organized. The inputs are pretty easy to access, and it has your typical selection of ports. There are DisplayPort and HDMI ports that each support 2.1 bandwidth, and there's a small USB hub that includes 2 USB-As. But it doesn't have other perks that you see on high-end monitors these days, like USB-C or KVM switch. But you're here for gaming, aren't you? And that's where we'll jump to. First off, you can reach the monitor's max 480Hz refresh rate over DisplayPort or HDMI. And it also supports all common VRR formats to reduce screen tearing with any source. Besides that, it's how you'd expect an OLED to perform for gaming. It has a near instant response time at any refresh rate, so fast-moving objects look sharp. Of course, there's more blur at low refresh rates, but that's normal persistence blur. And unfortunately, it doesn't have a black frame insertion feature to make this better. On the plus side, its low input lag makes gaming feel responsive at high refresh rates, but it's less responsive at 60 Hz, which is disappointing for playing games that need fast reactions at that refresh rate. But keep in mind that this is only the case if your game is locked to 60 Hz or lower, like on a PS5, and not if you start at a higher refresh rate and use VRR to go down to a lower refresh rate. And if you do want to use it for console gaming, you'll be happy to know it supports any signal from a PS5 or Xbox. But of course, it downscales 4K signals to 1440p, which is still useful because the Xbox only supports HDR with 4K signals. While this monitor is definitely fantastic for gaming, it isn't perfect. One of the downsides of OLEDs is VRR Flicker. This happens with changing frame rates, and it's most distracting in dark scenes. So the best way to avoid this issue is by setting a frame rate cap or just turning off VRR. Alright, before we move on, we're going to continue with the Debbie Downer portion of this review. We all know about another downside of an OLED, which is burn-in. Of course, if you're changing things up, like between gaming and watching videos, then you shouldn't worry about it. It's only a real issue if you're only using this monitor for work all day, every day, especially with it at its max brightness. But are you really getting a 1440p OLED only for work? Hopefully not. Plus, the monitor has a few settings to help reduce this risk, like pixel move and cleaning features. And another reason you really shouldn't use this monitor only for work is the text clarity. While text looks fine, it just isn't as sharp as on a 27-inch 1440p LCD display. There's a bit of fringing around letters, and the matte screen coating makes them look hazy. So you might notice this difference if you're switching from an LCD monitor to this one. Speaking of this coating, the main advantage of it is that it reduces glare really well. It spreads light out, so it doesn't look like a mirror. That means it's a good choice if you have some lights in your room. But unfortunately, it doesn't get as bright as other OLEDs in SDR, so it isn't as good at fighting glare, like if you have it opposite a bright window. Sadly, the peak brightness setting doesn't boost it all that much. It does actually get much brighter in HDR, enough to fight more glare. Plus, it makes small highlights pop against the rest of the image. But like any OLED, it can't keep this high brightness with larger highlights, and it doesn't let highlights get the brightest they could. So, combining these bright small highlights with its near infinite contrast ratio and perfect black uniformity that OLEDs are known for, it's amazing for HDR. But another contributing factor for this is the range of colors that it displays. It shows a wide range of colors in both the DCI-P3 and Rec 2020 color spaces, and they're accurate in both. Plus, it displays dark colors really well, but bright colors aren't as vivid as on QD OLEDs. And how about colors in SDR? Unfortunately, it's less accurate there. Even though it has an sRGB mode, it's weirdly inaccurate, and using the Gamer 1 mode isn't much better. Colors are oversaturated, the white balance is off, and gamma is way too bright for most content. Simply put, you'll need to calibrate it even for an accurate image. So now that we know how it performs, is it worth getting? Well, it all depends on what you're looking for. If you want an OLED with the highest refresh rate you can get today, then you won't be disappointed with this monitor. Besides the higher input lag at 60Hz, it really performs as you'd expect from an OLED, especially if you're going to use it to game at high refresh rates. Plus, the high bandwidth ports are useful if you have a PC that can take advantage of them. There are drawbacks with picture quality that we talked about though. So if that's important to you, you might want to consider the Sony InZone M10s, which is the main competitor of the LG. It gets brighter and has more accurate colors in SDR, so the picture quality is a bit better. Besides that, it's very similar for gaming and actually has consistently lower input lag. But it also can't downscale 4K signals from consoles, so it's not a perfect alternative. That said, if you find the LG too expensive or you don't need the 480Hz refresh rate, then consider something like the cheaper MSI MPG 271QRX. It's a 1440p QD OLED that delivers more vivid colors than on the LG, so the picture quality is better. It also has a few extra features like a USB-C port and KVM switch, which is neat if you want to connect more than one computer. But because of its lower 360Hz refresh rate, choosing this or the LG really depends on what you need. That's all for the LG 27GX790A-B. If you want more details on the monitor, check out our written review. The link is in the description below. Until next time, I'm Nicholas from Ratings.com, where we help you find the best product for your needs. Ciao.